Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's a guy who's maybe wishing for, I don't know if I want more halting hexes or just evict everybody. Quadruple eviction night on Big Brother. I'm Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. We've got a great show. We've got dogs here. We've got Brent here. And we've got a fantastic guest for you. You've seen her as recently as but a week ago in the Big Brother house. Please welcome here live with us, Jessica Graff. Jessica, how are you?
You had me at dogs.
Yes. So, we are ready to go. And Jessica, thank you so much for coming on with us. I know that this is a lot going on. You've just been gotten out of the house. You watched Cody go out in this double eviction tonight, and now here you are joining us live, and we appreciate you coming on with us in this whirlwind.
Well, thank you. I had a lot of people tweeting me about your podcast and saying that they wanted to see me come on the show, so I figured I'd do just that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Of course, Brent is here, and Brent was a big supporter of yours from even the preseason and all the way through, and was very unhappy with the status quo in the house.
Very unhappy with the status quo, but very happy to be joining Jessica tonight. Jessica, you did an awesome job on Big Brother. You were a shining light on this season for the most part for most of the people in Rob As a Podcast land who enjoy the show and wanted the house to change the trajectory from Paul having his say over everything to something else happening. I'm sorry you couldn't get it done, but it was fun watching you.
Jessica, is your dog angry? Is your dog upset about Cody getting evicted?
Yeah, he's very upset. No, there's actually dogs barking outside, and I think he's trying to like communicate with them. He's like me. I can't control him. He does what he wants.
Yes. All right. So, is there another dog barking things about meatballs at him?
Ugh. Don't use that word around me.
Okay, sorry about that. All right. Anyway, so a lot to break down, of course, with the double eviction. We had Cody go out. That was sort of the predictable part. And then I guess probably the slightly less predictable part was the Mark and Elena nomination. I guess the big exciting moment in the episode came when Mark won the veto. Elena ultimately goes home. But first, Jessica, we have to start with your reaction to Cody's exit.
He definitely just did not disappoint. He walked out in normal Cody fashion, and I'm glad he didn't waste his time with any goodbyes. I made a bad mistake of saying goodbye to a couple of people, and now that I'm out of the house and see some of the things that they were saying and doing behind my back, I wish I didn't even bother doing that. So I am glad that he left the way he did, because that's just who Cody is.
Yeah, Brent, was that the fastest exit out of the Big Brother house?
That was honestly pretty fast. My only disappointment was that he didn't close the door behind him, because Paul is always the one to go over there and grab the door and leave it open while the house guest is walking out so that they can see the audience. And I'm like, Cody, just like shut that door so that they can't see anything. But yeah, it was still great. And I loved it actually when he walked over the table. I've never seen that before in my life. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Jessica, did you think
it's funny you said that thing about the door, because I thought the same thing. I wanted him to slam it shut because Paul is such an attention whore that, of course, he's like trying to steal the spotlight.
Jessica, did you think at any point this week that Cody had a chance to stay in the house?
You know, I told Cody before I left that if there were any saving graces for him, I hope that he took it, and that if that meant him having to work with Jason and Alex, do it. If that meant with you working with Paul, do it. Like, if it means staying in this house, do whatever you can possibly do. And I think that's why you saw him really pull out all the stops this past week. If you guys watched live feeds, he was way more social. He was interacting with everybody. He was trying to make deals. He was trying to throw people under the bus. He was trying to create other targets. And he really wanted to make sure that me leaving wasn't in vain. So he really put everything he had into the past week, and people have their minds made up.
I didn't say it at the top of the show, but hashtag RHAP if you want to get your questions into the show. Scott St. Pierre standing by, and we'll take a bunch of your questions here tonight with Jessica. Now, just that there was a very interesting interview that Cody gave with Julie when he got out of the house. And I thought Cody was actually very good with Julie both times through. Even in the first time when, that he was probably getting more of a villainous response. I think that you guys didn't know what the reaction was going to be to him outside of the house. Whereas this week, I thought he really got a very positive edit from the show. But he came out and sat with Julie. And so first, he said this when Julie asked him about the people in the house.
Play a social game. Why couldn't you just kind of be phony a little bit?
These people, I can't stand them. I hate all of them. So
yeah. And so we had that moment from earlier tonight. So he can't be phony, and he speaks for a lot of us. And then also, when Julie Chen asked him a very tough question, she asked him this.
All right, final thoughts?
oh gosh, I just want to see Jessica and my daughter.
Are you going to marry Jessica?
I will. I wasn't going to say it.
She's probably screaming at home watching right now. All right.
I literally did scream. I did scream. I've been watching the show by myself in my apartment because I wanted to just like stay focused, and I literally screamed out loud when he said it. Because the other day I tweeted that a complete joke that I was going to propose to Cody at finale, and the fact that he just said that was just a cherry on top of that. So it was cute.
Now, Jessica, Cody is not really a jokester.
To you, he doesn't open up to just everyone. Cody shows me a completely different side than he shows anybody else, and I think that's what makes our relationship so special. So he definitely has a funny side to him.
Yes, but was that a joke?
I don't think he's joking. He better not be joking.
Brett, do you think he's joking?
No, I don't think he's joking either. Look, but we've seen from the very beginning of the season, Cody is the kind of guy, when he wants something, he goes after it. He does not wait. He does not pitter-patter around. Like, if he wants it, he goes after it. So I totally believe him. Whatever people say, but when people show you what they want, you should believe them. So I totally believe that Cody wants to marry Jessica.
Okay. Jessica, are you open to that?
Of course I'm open to it. His mom immediately texted me.
Okay.
I'm open to it.
All right.
As Elena would say, I'm open to all the things the Lord has for me.
Okay. All right. Now, Cody had a move that he was sitting on tonight, and he gave an eviction speech. I mean, after the Elena eviction speech, which was a real disaster. This was a rough night for Elena, Jessica. This was a rough night all around for her. Yeah. So Cody said this to the house guests tonight. I want to get your reaction to this.
Alex, you played a dirty game this week. Her and Jason, they tried to flip the house. They came to me with two different plans. One to get you out, Matt, and they were going to put you up, Raven. She told me about the conversation between you two that you had about me. The second plan was to get you out, Paul. And then at the end, they told me that they're going to put me up, and they're going to wait till this week till Jason can actually win the HOH to execute.
Thank you, Cody. Matt?
Yeah. All right. So we saw Cody earlier in the season. He actually pulled this off once before when he told Paul that Mark and Dominique knew about the plan back in week 1. Seems like that he went back to this playbook. He admitted to Julie Chen later on in the night that was all a made-up story. It was fake news. What did you think about what he did?
I think he did it for me. I think he said that in Julie's interview too. I really wanted to see Jason and Alex get out of this house because they never stayed loyal to Cody, and they're part of the reason my game was put in jeopardy because of that. So I think that he was trying to stir the pot to put targets on their back, and I loved every second of it. And I also want to go on record saying that noise is not original at all. When Josh was HOH and I lost the temptation competition and I was on the block, he had to nominate 2 people. And during the nomination ceremony, he nominated Elena and Matt, or who was, I don't remember. Elena and somebody. And then he turned the speech around and he started attacking me during his speech. And the first thing I did, and they don't show it in the episode, but the first thing I did was okay, Josh, like, stop talking about me. And I cut off his speech, and he was so frazzled, and he got so upset, he started screaming to production saying, she's not allowed to interrupt me. Don't let her do that. I need to start over. She ruined my speech. And they were like, Josh, calm down. You can do your speech over. Jessica, don't say anything this time. And then he goes, I can't even talk right now. Just use it. I need to, before I flip out, I need to walk away. And he walked off. So like that Jason and Alex thing wasn't original at all. They're just, still thinking about me, I guess.
Josh is a prima donna.
So
he is.
In terms of what Cody did, though, in terms of the reaction that you think it will have, do you think that is this a seed which festers now? The live feeds are going to be down for about 24 hours or so until after the highly anticipated Friday backyard celebration with Derek Levasseur. Until that is over, we are not going to know how it's going to take hold. But do you think that this is something that gets in Paul's head?
I don't think so. And the only reason I say that is because if Cody knew that Alex and Paul have been working together from the start, I don't think he would have touched upon that, because Cody is still unaware that Paul and Alex have a final 2 deal. So if I don't think it's going to do much. It might do something to the other house guests, and they'll probably try to bring it up to Paul. But I think Paul's I think he feels pretty secure with himself right now. So I don't think it'll do much, unfortunately.
You've come out of the house. Have you gotten to watch all of the episodes, or have you just been sort of like informed about what the season was like by friends and family, based on what we've seen on the outside?
I've been a little bit of both. I've been trying to catch up on the episodes. Right now, I'm at Alex's first HOH where she nominated Dominique and myself. So that's where I am watching the episodes. And then I've had a lot of people tell me things that have happened, and I've seen highlights of videos and stuff like that. So I've put together a lot.
So you've had this very polarizing response to you outside of the house. I mean, I can see it in the chat. I can see it on social media. You have people that adore you, and you have people that are very, people get angry on social media about different things. What's that like to just be around all these really strong emotions of going both ways?
I said that when I came out of the house, one of my biggest pet peeves was going to be people telling me what I should have done. And I appreciate everyone's opinion. Everyone's entitled to it. The only thing is, when you're put in that situation, you guys as viewers have all of the information at your fingertips. So by default, your opinion is already biased because you know everything that's going on in the house. For me, I only know that every time I walk into the room, everybody's whispering, and then it stops, and then people are told not to speak to me, and then people are telling me like lies about other people. So I don't have all of the information at my fingertips like viewers do. So I understand that everybody has their own opinion, and everyone that loves and supports me, I appreciate that to no end. But anybody who is critical of my decisions, understand that I know I made mistakes in the game. I know I was not perfect. And if I get a chance to do it again, then I've learned my lesson.
So now that you've gotten to see more of what Paul has had going on in the house, what has surprised you in terms of what you've learned?
I said in the house that if I went to jury that Paul would get my vote. I thought he was playing a masterful puppeteer game. He is. It's not his fault that everybody else in the house is so weak-minded and just following him because they're starstruck. That's not his fault. He's taking advantage of that. However, I think that he's taking the mob mentality strategy to a whole new extreme, and I don't like it. To say things like, I want to trigger Cody's PTSD so that he hits a house guest to get him evicted. How about you just play the game, Paul, and evict Cody on your own accord instead of trying to cheat and take a cheap shot at him? Things like that I don't respect. I didn't think that was ever in Paul's character, but now that I'm outside of the house and seeing all of these things, I think that he has something he needs to answer to.
What was it like for you to watch a lot of the events of this week where there was a lot of ganging up on Cody, him being the only person in the house that was everybody's target, and we didn't see it on the live show, the hashtag Serialgate, which transpired during the week, but it was certainly something that he was dealing with in the house.
I didn't even see that hashtag. I don't know how I missed it. That's so funny. It was watching Cody be attacked by the entire house all over again was very emotional for me. Leaving Cody was really difficult, really, really difficult. He became my best friend very quickly, my partner in crime. We were Bonnie and Clyde, and I really just wanted to be there to defend him. And I think he handled himself so, so well in a house full of absolutely insane people. And I'm actually really proud of him for standing up for himself, saying it how it is, and just walking away from the situation.
We really did a lot of speculation at the point where we knew Cody was probably going to come back into the game with the battle back. And you had really made a lot of strides in that week that Cody was out of the house. What do you think your game would have been like if Cody did not return? Do you think that you would have been able to potentially go all the way to the end?
I think that, oops. Is my video down?
Yeah, yeah, we're down. Oh, we're back. Wait.
Are we back?
No, still down. Right. You can answer while we're trying to figure it out.
Okay. It says it's loading.
Okay.
I think that people had already made up their minds about Cody and I. They saw us as a strong duo and a force to be reckoned with. And on top of that, Paul doesn't like other people who outshow him. And I think you saw that too when he made Ramses a threat. Ramses on the show was absolutely adorable. He could have absolutely gone for fan favorite had he stayed. He stole the show in a lot of different ways. And I think that's why Paul made him a target then too, because like Paul wants to be the center of attention. And if you're going to put that in jeopardy, then he's not going to let you stay in the house, and he's got the army to take you out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, while you're trying to get that fixed with the video, let me see. Whatever you did before to get it back working, Brent, let me get your reaction to what we saw in the double eviction. Whistle Nut was the new HOH tonight. And so he ends up going with Mark and Elena. I was actually a little like, I was wondering what he was going to do, because Mark and Elena went to go talk to him, and Whistle was like, I'm going to give a speech. I'm going to give a speech. I'm going to give, like, well, what does that mean?
He's panicking, Rob. He's panicking. He doesn't know what to do. He has to have his hands held. That's why Paul was literally like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. Like literally everything. I don't think that speech he gave was coming from Paul. I think that was all Jason. But everything else, look, I think you're really like, Rob, you're missing the forest for the trees here. The issue was the fact that Big Brother decided to have an elimination competition with two clear targets in the house. Like we've been begging for something like this all season long. And on the night where Mark and Elena are the clear and present targets of the house, Big Brother in their infinite wisdom decides, let's have an elimination competition just to make their odds even worse if they weren't already worse before. So I don't know what the hell they're doing this season, but they really got to get it together.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Brent, but I actually thought it was going to be a positive for Mark, because I felt like that this wasn't necessarily like a trivia question where he had to get it right every time, but it was a physical thing where I thought, okay, well, maybe, and I know they had been practicing, but
right.
This was going to be
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's like Frank from Big Brother 14, where like the more you do it, like Portia from Big Brother 13 with the snake competition, the more you do it, even though you're in last place going into it, the more you do it, the more you get practice at it, and then by the end, you're actually really, really good at it. But the problem is it really is kind of a bit of a luck competition, and there's really no way to gauge. I mean, his shot wasn't terrible, but on the other hand, it wasn't very good either.
I don't know if it's luck. It wasn't like, hitting the ball into the random holes along the way. I mean, it was, a skill. I mean, they do have, Scott Zambier curling. I mean,
but like I said, it's an elimination competition. Right? Yeah. That's the problem.
But the thing was, it seemed like that Mark was actually getting good at it. You saw Paul come in off the bench cold, and then he didn't do it. I felt like that Mark actually had a pretty good shot to win this HOH competition.
Well, he whiffed. I mean, honestly, when he got up there and he was on what was as we're looking at it, the left side the entire time, and then the one side he moved over to the right side because Whistlenut took his spot. Then he didn't do so well. So I don't know what happened. He had a chance to win it. I'm glad he won the veto because he was the target for the House. I'm sure you don't need a life eater to tell you that Mark is the definite target for the House. He won 2 competitions previously in past weeks. He won another competition tonight. They are afraid of him. They would have evicted him tonight if he hadn't won the veto. So at least the House, Paul, as in the House, did not get what he wanted tonight because he wanted Mark out of the House, and Mark is not out of the House. Mark is still in there with a chance to win, and we don't even know what this temptation competition twist that they're going to introduce is.
Okay. Jess, if you want to try to bounce back out and come back in, that sometimes is the answer to these questions. Okay.
I think it's clicking. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. There we go. All right. So now, hold on.
Should be soon. We can hear you, but we cannot see you still.
Okay. All right. You didn't put a halting hex on the camera, right?
You know, I might have. These things happen.
She's good at that.
Yeah. Okay. So, Jess, let me just get your reaction to Whistlenut winning the HOH tonight. Any thoughts about Jason's HOH win?
Call me bitter, but when it came down to Christmas and Jason at the end, I was rooting for Jason.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, well, there we go. So I mean, what are you gonna do in that spot? Brent, were you impressed they let Christmas play in this competition?
Yeah, they actually found a competition that she can play in. I wonder how that's going to happen, like going forward to the Final Four and the Final Three. Again, my problems with Christmas being, left in the house, Rob. I don't need to repeat myself, but I was glad that she could
not get into that tonight.
Participate in this. And I also thought it was funny that Julie went to read the live votes for Cody, and Christmas wasn't even out of the diary room yet. Julie's like, I'm not waiting for this bitch.
All right, so the nomination.
I was laughing at that too.
Right.
Yeah, the nomination ended up being Mark and Elena in the second part of the double eviction, and Jason, he too gave this disaster of a speech where he starts saying to Mark about how, like, Mark, I hate to do it, and he mentions that Cody coming and saying you can't trust Mark. Was that accurate?
Cody had said that.
Yeah.
And then says, okay, and Mark, that conversation we saw by the chessboard, said to Jason, we got to get Paul out, and he narked on him in front of everybody.
Yeah, I know. Well, the fact of the matter is that Cody hasn't been happy with Mark since the beginning of the season when Mark said that, you have my vote, and you didn't have his vote. So, I look back at the beginning of the season, if Mark and Elena switch their votes, Christmas is out of the house and it's a whole new ball game with Jillian in there. But as it stands, after that, Cody never really let that go. I think he trusted Mark to an extent because he needed to. He needed any ally he could get, but he didn't really trust Mark complicitly because Mark had turned his back on him during week 1. And if he would have just stuck with him, then things would have been different.
Yeah. Jessica, Jason said, hey, Mark, look, I'm putting you on the block. We're trying to knock you out of the house. But, hey, New Year's Eve, we're still boys.
Know, right? This is so pathetic.
Isn't that up to Mark? Isn't that Mark's call if he's going to be mad at Whistlenut or not?
He's just praying for that jury vote. That's all that was.
Yeah.
It was very passive-aggressive way of being like, hey, bud, gonna kick you out, but like $500,000, please vote for me.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of this in the House where he's like, I don't have a target. Look, I'm not deciding anything. You saw Alex when she put Cody up on the blog. I wash my hands of this. This isn't me. I'm not doing it. Are people trying to lay the blame at the feet of somebody else? Paul?
Yeah, I think they're finally taking a page out of Paul's book. Paul doesn't want to take the blame for anything, and people are seeing that. And now that it's jury time, people are going to be a little bit more cautious on how they treat people, which I'm all for, but those speeches were god-awful.
Yeah, not great. And the highlight of the night, though, Mark ends up winning the veto. Boy, Brent, I thought that was pretty dangerous to give this group a puzzle on live TV to go out there.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If it was Matt, Raven, and Josh in another temptation competition, it would be a three-way tie for last. Like, they did not know what the hell they were doing in that competition. I actually do think this could have ramifications down the line because Matt and Raven have been shown to be so freaking terrible at these kind of things that Paul may really rethink wanting to have them as the next targets on the block because, as we've been joking, Elena and Mark are the new Cody and Jessica, and Matt and Raven are the new Mark and Elena, but they are loyal to Paul to a fault, and they are utterly terrible at these competitions. I really think he might want to think about evicting somebody else, i.e. Kevin or Alex, rather than Matt and Raven, who are loyal and who are terrible at the comps.
Yeah. What was your reaction to Mark winning the veto?
I loved it. I had a really good feeling that Mark would win the veto. He's been proving to be a competition threat, which is putting a bigger target on his back, and he is at the bottom of the totem pole right now. So if he wants to stay in this game, he has to keep that up. Otherwise, he's going to be following Elena.
Okay. And ultimately, Mark came down, and there was going to be a decision to be made to put up a replacement nominee. And lo and behold, well, it was Matt. It was the replacement nominee. Who saw that coming?
I was hoping for Raven.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Raven shake a little.
Yeah.
It's really terrible, Rob. Our Alex Kidwell, one of the other live feed correspondents, Jessica, tweeted out that Matt should be totally fine being a pawn this season because every week's pawn becomes the next week's target, and yet he's totally fine sitting up there on the block, and he is next on the hit list after Mark goes out of the house. If Mark wins veto this week, I have to believe that Matt is likely on the chopping block to go home, and they are totally 100% oblivious to it, Rob. They actually think they have a final five with Paul, Jason, and Alex. They think Christmas and Josh are on the outside with Kevin, and they could not be more wrong.
Now, Jessica, do you think they would do that to Matt when he's that close to the serial record for the season?
I actually got into a debate with Cody earlier in the season because I was convinced that Matt was throwing competitions. That's clearly not the case at this point. He really just is that bad at competing. And I mean, when you have somebody who's never watched the show before and is that bad at competing, I'm wondering how someone like that is still in the house and I'm sitting in my living room.
Well, I think that there's a thing where you get rid of the people that are more of a threat, and he has really made himself demonstrated what is threatening about Matt.
Exactly. He looks like he would be a good competitor, but he's just not at all. And he thinks that he's sitting really pretty. He talks a big game behind closed doors, but I like Matt personally. I really do. I think him and I will be friends outside of the house. But his position in this house right now is completely useless.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jessica, and maybe even more so. I'm going to be a little bit, bring the heat a little bit. I actually think he's one of the worst casting choices they've ever had in the history of the show, because not only does he not bring anything strategically useful to the table, but there's no fire in him, Rob. There's no want to win the money. There's no nothing. I don't understand. He said he wanted to get to jury. He said, when you get to jury, I'm going to make a big move. I'm going to play the game hard. Jury's here, and you're still playing the same game you were always playing. Matt and Raven didn't even want to win HOH tonight. They did because they don't think they're anybody's targets. That may be a good game move, but it's not necessarily fun TV, and it's certainly not fun feeds.
Yeah. But Jessica, let me give you the devil's advocate as Matt Ligori brought up this morning, and it's also happy birthday to Matt Ligori. So if Matt did speak up, what would stop him from being the new Mark?
First of all, for him to be the new Mark, he's going to have to win competitions, and I don't think that boy can do anything. So I don't think that Matt will ever come close to filling Mark's shoes. There's a lot of people in that house who haven't done anything at all. Christmas hasn't done anything. Raven hasn't done anything. Matt hasn't done anything. Josh got lucky with the stupid, it was honestly just a stupid competition, but he has done nothing. No one in this house has done anything. The only person who deserves to win, or people that deserve to win at this point, are Alex and Paul, and it's only because they're playing a social game, they're manipulating people, they're winning competitions, they're active players in the game. But there's how many people left in the house, and I can only say that about 2 people. That's embarrassing for everybody that's in there.
See, I'm surprised to hear you say that you feel like that Alex has been such an active player in the game.
Well, even though I don't like Alex, I can still acknowledge that she's great at competing. She absolutely is. I don't like Alex. I'll say that 100,000 times. But she's good at competing. And there's other people in this house that aren't good at anything other than cooking food that could possibly give the house guests food poisoning. So yeah, Alex is definitely in the running to be final two. It doesn't mean I'm happy about it.
Yeah, Rob, I think it's like Shelly during Big Brother 14, where, you know, she didn't really like Rachel at all, but she saw that she was a competitor and she was out there fighting for herself, where, you know, she was looking at Portia like she didn't do anything. She just slept all season long. So I think that's where Jessica's admiration at least is coming from for Alex in particular, because she doesn't really like her, but at least she's feisty and at least she goes for the competitions. And that's something more than anybody else is doing right now.
Okay.
Admiration is a strong word.
Okay.
All right. Ultimately, we see Elena on the block up against Matt tonight. Elena is the one to go home. Jessica, any final thoughts on Elena this season? I feel like that there was some promise there for us, at least on the outside, in terms of her as a player, but it was not a promise that was ever fulfilled.
I don't think Elena realizes that she could have played a bigger game and she would still be in the same position that she is today. I think that the girl has so much spunk and personality, and I really expected her to pull off a lot of competition wins, and I said that to her early in the season. I also said early in the season that I think she had the best social game in the house. Everybody loved her. But she played such a safe game and tried to people please the house, and she didn't have to do that. She could have really come out guns blazing, and she might have even gone farther. I would have loved to see that from her.
Yeah, Rob, all you need to know about Elena is that she threw the HOH competition last week because she didn't want to be the one to have to put Cody up. And she was this close to going home. If Cody wins or, you know, somehow wins the veto or, you know, wins the temptation competition, like, there was really no excuse for her gameplay this season. She lost the plot. When Cody came back into the house after the battle back, Elena was in a good spot at that point. She was with Paul. She was the house, so to speak, at that point. But then when Cody came back into the house, Elena and Mark cozied back up to Jessica, and Cody and Paul didn't like it. And so he got the house to turn on them, and Elena never recognized that. She tried to play safe. She tried to pretend, well, at least I'm not Jessica and Cody. At least I'm not next on the chopping block. And then, of course, fast forward to tonight, and you are the next on the chopping block. If you don't do anything to change your fate, nobody else will.
I mean, down to the bitter end.
Amen.
Elena, do you have a speech? Well, I don't really have anything to say, but, you know, I guess I'll go to the jury house now. And I've never in my life have seen anybody so happy to be sitting there with Julie Chen of just like, I'm on TV. Oh, hey. I mean, when Julie was like ending the show, I mean, Elena was like beaming. I've never seen anybody so happy to lose this game.
Yeah, I really did want to see a Marlena and Jody alliance. I wanted to see us take out the entire house, and I was really hoping that once Cody came back in the game, people would be like, okay, here's a strong competitor, Jess is a strong competitor, like, let's use them instead of eliminate them. Unfortunately, people wanted to bring floaters to the end and not strong people. So I don't agree with that. If I was still in the house, I would be taking out bigger players. And my biggest regret was absolutely letting my personal issues with Josh cloud my judgment during HOH.
Can we talk about that, Jess? I want to talk about that if you can quickly. Like, you know, and just I want you to know, like, I'm one of your biggest fans, so I'm not harping on you here, and I know you don't have all the information in the house, and we keep it pretty light here on Rob as a podcast. But I was so disappointed with you on the week that you won HOH because I felt like you made a mistake by not recognizing that the house was against you there, and if the house is against you, you have to force the house to make the move that you want. It feels like because you saw it. Everybody was after you in that endurance competition. Everybody kept dumping trash on you and Cody. And then when you won, everyone's kissing your ass. And it seemed like you bought it just for enough to put Ramses up on the block. And I guess I sort of want to know, how did the Ramses nomination come about? And you had an inkling that something was going on, and you almost used the veto on him and stuck Alex up there, which would have been awesome. So what happened with that?
Okay, if Cody and I were going to continue, we couldn't have done the game on our own. So I was trying to use the HOH to mend fences with people so that we could get more people on our side. For example, I told Cody several times that I wouldn't mind aligning ourselves with Jason or Alex. I wouldn't mind aligning ourselves with Mark and Elena. So I wanted to use this HOH to get out someone who isn't going to ruffle too many feathers, and then depending on where the power landed the following week, I was going to try and align myself with that side of the house. Cody and I were trying to get numbers. We never had numbers. We were always on the chopping block, and we wanted a week off. So we were trying to align ourselves. We were trying to think more long-term, and we didn't realize that it didn't matter what we did or what we said to these people. We were always going to be public enemy number one. There was, and that's where I was ignorant. I thought that I had relationships with these people that went deeper than the mistakes that were made during week one, because there were a lot of people who have made mistakes throughout this game that have been forgiven and forgotten. And like Cody and I were just never forgiven, and we were never forgotten. So it was definitely a mistake. I wish that I had played more cold-hearted in that week, but I was trying to play a little bit safe, build a bigger alliance, and plan for a longer game in the house.
I will give you. I'll give you. I was critical of that move, but I will give you a little bit of credit listening to you now. I understand what you were trying to do. I think your plan might have worked on a season without Paul, without some big vet star in the house telling everybody what to do. If it was just these 16 people without Paul, and you pulled a move like that, I think there's a good possibility that Josh would have gone home that week, and everybody would have made nice with you and tried to cozy up to you, at least in part. It wouldn't have been such an absolute, but with Paul pulling the strings behind everybody's back and telling everybody what to do, there was just no hope for anything else to happen that week.
Yeah, and like I said, Ramses was a showman, and he took spotlight time away from Paul, and Paul's ego was wounded, and when he had an opportunity to take out Ramses, he definitely went for it. So
yeah, I can hear you.
Just go back to the first week when Cody was the HOH and he wanted to take this shot at Paul. Now, knowing everything that we know now, the move ultimately was not executed well, but was the thinking correct? I mean, was that possibly the only time, had it not been for the pendant of protection, where Paul could have been stopped before he really got on a roll? Like, did Cody have the right idea?
If Paul did not have 3 weeks of safety, his ass would have gone home that first week. It would have been very easy to convince people this is a vet. He knows this game better than us. He's played in a lot of the competitions that we are about to play in this season. He needs to go. And I think people saw, oh my God, this is a vet. He has a fan base. I want a fan base, so I'm going to cozy up and be his best friend, A. And B, they were like, oh, he has 3 weeks of safety. He's going to be able to compete in all of these competitions. I need to stay on his good side because he's going to keep me safe for at least 3 weeks. Once they saw those things, there was no convincing them otherwise. So Paul got lucky. Paul got lucky that he was protected by that pendant, because this season would be completely different if he was never voted for that.
Okay. I want to also bring in questions from our listeners and people who are watching live as we go along here. This is a question. This is from Jennifer. Jessica, is Paul as insufferable in the house as he is watching the live feed? Oh, pissed.
You know, the most frustrating thing about Paul is that when you have a conversation with him, he tries to act like he doesn't know what you're talking about. Like, I kept telling him he was a puppet master and playing this manipulative game, and he was like playing this innocent card of, who, me? Like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's very good with his words. He's definitely a talker. He can talk circles around most people in that house. But I saw right through him from the very beginning, and I plotted his game, but he wouldn't acknowledge that that is what he was doing. So it was very frustrating having a conversation with him.
So in terms of how you saw Paul in this game, did you like him in Big Brother 18?
I did. I actually was a big Paul fan.
Yeah. And what was different about him in person versus the guy you saw on TV?
Again, I think that Paul's ego definitely got the best of him. He thinks that he can do and say things and people will love him regardless, but that's not it. He needs to stay true to who he was last season, and not get so power trippy.
Yeah, I agree with Jessica. I think, if you didn't know that that's what was going on with Paul previously in this season, you certainly knew it when the bullhorn came outside, because Paul was one of the people to hear the bullhorn, and he heard the bullhorn say, America loves Jessica and Cody, and Paul is a bully. And that really shook him. Honestly, I was still watching him last week, and he was still going on about that. How if I'm protecting the people that I'm with, then I guess I'm just a bully. Like, he's so butthurt by that. It's actually very fun to see.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take another question. This is from Mr. Robot Taran, who asks, how do you know the Nolan twins? Did they give you any advice before going to the house? Do you know the Nolan twins?
It's so funny. So I work with them. We all work together, and we never really interacted together at work. So I work at a nightclub called Hyde, and they run the door at Hyde. And so I saw them every Thursday, Friday, Saturday for a really long time. And I never really spoke to them that much because I knew that I was going through the audition process, and I had mentioned in the audition process that like Memphis from season 10 works for my company, and Liz and Julia, the Nolan twins, both work for my company. And they were like, you can't allow them to know that you're going through this process because it could like hurt your chances of going in the house. So they honestly didn't know until the cast was revealed that I was even going to be on the show.
That's awesome, actually. I'm a huge Memphis fan. He's so hot. And also Liz and Julia. I know he's married now. I know, I get it. But Liz and Julia, they were just awesome. Rob, please play.
It was going to work out between you if he wasn't married?
You never know, Rob. Things happen in real life.
I don't think he's married.
I
don't think he's married.
Okay, Brent.
Oh, man. Maybe he was.
He has a girlfriend.
Okay.
He has a baby. But I don't think
I saw.
Married.
Maybe that's what I saw. Okay, cool. Anyway, Liz and Julia are great. I loved covering them for Big Brother 17. God, I can never remember the names on this season's, Rob. And I actually did have a question for you, Jessica, that someone in the chat room had asked, and I had actually been wondering myself. I've been saying on this podcast for a long time that Josh can win the game. And I know you're not on the jury, but if you were on the jury, based on what you saw in the house, would Josh ever have a chance of getting your jury vote?
In a hypothetical world, who is he sitting next to on the block?
Let's say Christmas.
Oh, God. This is my nightmare. I think I'd walk out of the jury house. I think I would boycott my vote and just completely walk out.
I've always maintained here's the thing. I've always maintained that Josh, he likes the pots and pans, and he likes to make a scene, and he likes to fight with people. But from what I see, it seems like he does it with a little bit of a smile on his face. So like when you and Cody were in the Austin Powers room, and he came in with the pots and pans on the day that the bullhorn happened, and he was like, "Hey guys," like it seems like there's a little bit of fun to his voice where you sort of don't take it all that seriously. So I was kind of wondering about Jess? Your perception in the house.
It was very on and off. Like when he did open the door to that, like if you saw, I was throwing apples at him and like laughing hysterically because it was funny at that moment in time, but Josh doesn't know when to stop, and he also doesn't take responsibility for himself in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
He's the most contradictory person I've ever met in my life, because he'll do one thing and then he'll apologize for it and then continue to do it. He doesn't take ownership of anything, and it's really, really infuriating. So I don't think that Josh is intentionally trying to be mean. I just think that he's such like an airhead that he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Now, we saw tonight, it looked to me that after Jason won the HOH, I thought he was getting in Mark's face, and I thought he was saying, bye, bye. Brent, did you catch that?
Yeah, obviously when he came back in. Yeah, he talks a big game. Rob, you and I've talked about this before. Josh can dish it out, but he cannot take it.
I hate that he's such a front runner. I really do. That really bothers me. I think he's a fun personality, but I hate that when things are going his way, he talks such a big game, and when things are not going his way, he gets a little sad. Yeah, a little sad.
Yeah, just a little sad. Yeah, it's kind of sad. No pun intended. But I don't know. I that's just been him all season long. I mean, like he runs hot and cold, just like Jess said.
Yeah. Okay.
Try living with him.
Now, do you feel like that you guys ended up? I mean, it was contentious with him from very early on. Would you have done anything differently in terms of how you and Cody handled him?
In the very beginning of the season, it might have even been before live feed started. I'm not entirely sure. But Raven and Alex had both, it was while Cody was still HOH, Raven and Alex had both made statements that they felt uncomfortable showering naked and that they wanted to wear bikinis from now on because they felt like Josh was trying to peep on them in the shower. And Cody, being who he is, was so not okay with that and felt very protective over them. And that's between seeing him flip out on Megan the way that he did, yelling at a female like that. Cody did not like that and immediately did not like Josh for that. And then he has 2 girls in the house saying that he's peeping on them in the shower. Raven made a claim that Josh peed on her in the shower. Like, there were a lot of statements about Josh towards women that made Cody turn into almost kind of like a big brother mode right before everything went south in his HOH. So that's what started the whole Josh thing. And it just kind of snowballed out of control. And I don't think that I regret anything that happened. I think that, Josh needs to do some serious growing up. I think that his parents need to kick him out of their house and force him to be a man.
Okay. We haven't touched on Raven too much outside of the incident with Josh that you mentioned right now. I follow you on Twitter, so I've seen some of your reactions to what you've seen about Raven on social media. So what's that been like to see the reaction to Raven outside the house?
Well, when you are in the house, you have zero knowledge of who is being well received and who is being hated. So inside the Big Brother house, everyone assumes that Raven is America's sweetheart. So nobody wants to ever say anything to Raven negatively because they're scared of how it would be perceived on the outside. Nobody wants to nominate her. No one, everyone wants to be nice to Raven. And then you get out of the house and you see that America sees right through her and that she's going to be held accountable for a lot of things because she does think that she's America's sweetheart and is loved by all. And so she thinks that she has the right to say and do whatever she wants behind closed doors. She can just lounge around, sunbathe all day, do her makeup horribly all day, and then compete in competitions terribly, and just behind closed doors can talk shit about anybody and point fingers on who should be put on the block. The girl is just an absolute nightmare, and I can't wait for her to get out of the house and be held accountable for everything that she's said and done.
So are you guys going to be friends?
Oh, best friends. World peace.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So, but, you've been, on social media, I'm sure, you see the people, people coming for Raven, that you and Cody also have had some stuff to deal with outside of the house. I know that there were a lot of people that were upset with comments that Cody made about transgender people while he was in the house. Have you had any reaction to people being upset with Cody about those comments?
I actually have. I've gotten some Instagram comments regarding it, and it's insane to me that he even made those comments. I definitely don't stand by them. I think that he just needs to be enlightened about transgender roles, and I just think that he needs to be informed. I think that anybody who feels that way just doesn't have the proper information. So I think that that's definitely something that can change. I don't think that he ever meant to be hateful. I feel bad for anyone's feelings that were hurt in that matter, and when he gets out of the house, it's definitely something that we'll deal with.
Okay.
Well said, Jessica.
Jessica, now were you aware of the TMZ story that was reporting that you were violating house guests and people were upset about that, Jessica?
It rings a bell. Can I just tell you the second
Did you realize that was a thing?
No, never in a million years. And I stepped off stage, went into the back, and you're immediately put into a private room with security. And CBS immediately had like a publicist there that was like, okay, so an article was released on TMZ about you, and this is what it was. That was literally the first thing that was said to me stepping out of the Big Brother house. And my stomach about fell out of my butt. I was like, is this real life?
No.
The story is completely one-sided and absolutely ridiculous, and I never commented on it prior to this because it was so one-sided that it makes me laugh. First of all, the people that I supposedly sexually harassed, like Matt, are still in the house. So if he comes out of the house and he says that he feels like it was sexual harassment, then absolutely hold me accountable. But I know that he's not going to say that. Also, it's something that many of the house guests did, not just one, not just two, but several of us all did. We're roommates. We get really close. We know a lot about each other. We spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with each other, and we're bored as hell. So yeah, we do silly things. And if anybody wants to claim sexual harassment, the only people who have a right to do that are the house guests. Outside of that, nobody has a right to chime in because it's not their bodies. And also, the videos later came out of different house guests doing it. I was not just the only person engaging in this kind of behavior. There was actually an incident, and I'm surprised this video, I don't think, has surfaced. I don't know if it was during a production meeting or what it was, but Cody was carrying me in his arms from the kitchen to the living room, and Matt was sitting on the couch, and he had to squeeze by Matt. And Matt said to Cody, "Thanks for holding me, bud." No, sorry. "Thanks for holding her down for me, bud." And Matt stuck his finger in my butt, and I went flying out of Cody's arms, and Cody lost it. He wanted to fight Matt with it for just doing that. He was venting to Mark about it. He was venting to me about it. He was really upset because he was like, "Don't touch my girlfriend's ass like that. Who do you think you are?" And I think that's what finally made it stop. Once Cody and I got serious and he started seeing like Paul and Elena and Matt doing things like that to me, he was just like, okay, this has got to end. So It wasn't just me. It was everybody, but I'll take the brunt if I have to.
Okay. All right. So many things have had to be shut down this season on Big Brother, between the oil change, between the pots and pans, that this season is on a complete lockdown at this point. All right. Let's take another question from you guys. This is from Kyle Dorr. Jessica, who do you think is the most brainwashed by Paul, and why is it Alex? Would you say, I mean, you said that Alex is somebody that you would vote for in the end. Do you feel like that Alex is one of the people that is most brainwashed by Paul?
Of course, she's completely starstruck by Paul. Alex has been quoted several times saying that she doesn't mind losing to Paul. She doesn't mind coming in second place to Paul, that she thinks he deserves to win. Where did these people come from? You're in the running for, people always say that I gave up $500,000 for Cody. Cody and I are going to have a very long relationship outside of this house. Everyone is giving up $500,000 for Paul, someone who's probably not even going to speak to them outside of this house. So the hypocrisy there is just insane to me. And Alex is definitely guilty of it. Look at just last week, Cody and Elena were on the block. Alex wanted Elena out of the house. Paul wanted Cody out of the house. Guess who went out of the house? Cody.
Mm-hmm. Now, tonight, Brent, we saw Elena be the person to go home. Are you surprised that Paul was okay with that? Was there, when there were other targets that he might have preferred?
He might have preferred Kevin to go home, but there was no way Jason was ever going to nominate Kevin. I think Paul had lost most of the trust that he had garnered with Elena over the past 2 weeks. Elena had slowly realized that, you know what, Paul doesn't have my best interest at heart here. So, I think that this was probably the best he could hope for, given that Jason was head of household. By the way, Jessica, Alex was saying that she'd be happy to come in second place before the season even started. Like, that's, Alex literally thinks that if she comes in second place this season, she was saying this before the season started, before she knew that Paul was on the season, she thought that she would be invited back again for next season. So she doesn't want to win this season. She wants to win BB20. That's what she thinks. I would like to tell Alex that the chances of her coming back are probably slim. The chances of Cody and Jessica coming back are probably much bigger.
And then people ask me why I don't like her.
Yeah, I hear you. I know. I understand it. She drives us crazy too. I want all of us who cover the feeds, I want to like Alex because she is feisty. She is funny at times. She is a comp beast. She can play, but she's so missed by Paul. It's honestly pathetic. She thinks that there's some like franchise, a friendship that Paul can't go against. And when she comes in 5th place, I really hope she looks back at this and thinks what could have been.
Well, Jessica, do you think that there is a group in the house that could come together to take Paul out? I mean, that sometimes these things do come together later on in the game, say final 7. Do you see that possibility happening, or do you think that Paul has this locked up 100%?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. If Mark is going to go home and not win all of it, then I kind of hope that Paul does win just to shut everybody up. Like, I want everyone in the house to realize how dumb that they are, that all of them gave up the chance to win $500,000 for someone that they didn't know 2 months ago. Again, people claim that I gave up $500,000 for Cody. Cody and I were alliance members from the get-go because we thought the same exact way. We wanted to play the game the same way. We were 2 people out of 17 that wanted to make big moves and make waves and not be floaters. We were the only 2 outside of Paul. Paul didn't want to work with us, obviously. So I hope Paul wins because I'm going to laugh.
That is a good point, that Paul is not hanging out with one of these Big Brother 19 people outside of the show. Like, when Paul gets out of the house, he's going to hang out with Victor, and that's it. There is not one person from Big Brother 19 that he's going to be returning their phone calls.
Yeah,
Paul and Victor don't even hang out.
No, I didn't even
They
know
don't even
that.
hang out. No.
Yeah. Oh
He
my
told
God.
us all the time that they don't hang out. And you know what is Paul going to do? He's going to leave and go to Iowa to hang out with Jason. He's going to go to Buffalo to hang out with Mark. Like, no, he's not doing any of those things. He lives here in Los Angeles. He's going to continue his franchise that he has, and he's going to live happily ever after, winning Big Brother 1st and 2nd place.
He's going to get 2nd place too?
No, last season.
Right.
He won
So
2nd place
wow.
last season.
I mean, that would be something if Paul was just the only person in the final 2. I mean, that would really be a mastermind maneuver if he could pull that off.
Well, Rob, I think that we've joked before about the fact, could there be a bitter jury? Could it be like Dan BB14? But I really don't think there's any hope of that. I think if Paul gets to the final 2, Paul wins in a walk. I really don't think there's any chance that anybody's going to be voting for somebody else. The only thing that might upset the apple cart is Derek Levasseur coming into the house.
Yeah,
and,
this is interesting.
Yes.
I don't know if it's going to be like BB Can 1, where Dan Giesling came into the house, and the people who were in control of the house at that time, Emmett and Jillian, really did not want Dan to come into the house and talk to anybody. So what's this going to be like?
Yeah, so we were speculating last night. There's going to be a special guest coming into the house. We were trying to guess who it is. Ironically, we were kidding around about could it be Cody Calafiore coming into the house to talk to people, but no, not that far off. In that, here comes Derek Levasseur, and I don't know necessarily. There's been so many comparisons, Jess, between Derek and what Paul is doing this season, and so now production is literally bringing Derek in. Jessica, do you think that this is going to be for Paul to have a one-on-one meeting with Derek? So Derek could say all right, there's just like a couple minor things that you're doing wrong here. So let me just make this even easier for you.
I will tell you right now, I don't think that Derek likes the way that Paul's playing. Derek's a Jody fan.
Yeah,
we've communicated. He's tweeted me. He's a Jody fan. So if he's going in that house, I hope he lays this smackdown on Paul.
I think, because I think that Derek doesn't want anybody coming up to that level, that top 3 player level with Dr. Will and Dan and Derek. I think he wants to keep Paul. Hey, stay off. You're not on this tier, buddy. So I think that Derek would be pulling for an upset.
I would never compare Derek and Paul because Paul has said so many awful, awful things about people, and Derek is just a genuinely sweet person. Like, I think he played the game like a puppeteer for sure, and Paul's trying to be a puppeteer, but he's also a bully. So I would never put the 2 of them in the same category. I think Derek is way better of a player, and he doesn't take cheap shots.
I'll have a caveat. I think that Big Brother is a really hard game to play, especially it's a very hard game to dominate from the front for so long. And I think that you have to really just tear people down throughout the season. If you are going to be in that power position, like a Derek, like a Paul, I think that you just have to just like, you can't like let people start to think like, oh, but they're not that bad. We'll vote them out. But you really need to keep everybody having a negative opinion of those people, because otherwise you lose the moral high ground. You need to sort of like, okay, these are the bad people. That's why we have to get them out. And I just don't think, I think that the House brings that out of people more so than anybody is a bad person.
I don't think I ever saw Derek as being a bully during his season. I think that he was, if anything, he brought himself down to make other people feel better, to think that he wasn't a threat, and he just snuck up on everybody. So he would rather bring himself and be like, oh yeah, you guys are really awesome. I'm not a threat. Like, there's no way I'm winning this game. You guys are so cool. You guys are so great. And then look who ended up winning. I think it was genius. And I think that if you want to play a game that brings other people down, that's great. But understand that you now have a price tag. When people ask you like, what are you willing to sell your soul for? There's people in the House right now that sold their soul for $8,000 just to go to jury. So good for them.
Yeah, Rob, I will say that I probably agree with both of you a little bit. Like, I don't think that Paul is exactly like Derek. I think Paul's game is a lot messier. I think it's a little meaner. I know that there were times during Big Brother 16 where, Derek was a bit of a hard ass with people, but I never felt that negative towards him. I always kind of respected him. I know Alex and I have talked about this on the feeds, the other Alex that covers the feeds with me, that, people did have it out for Derek at the time, but I always felt like he earned it because he was the cop, he was the family man. He came in, he didn't have safety like Paul did for 3 weeks. I feel like there's a lot of asterisks next to Paul's name if he ends up winning.
Yeah. Well, I do think that
Amen.
is part of it being a returning player season. I saw that our good friend Taylor Cotter wrote on Twitter, how come during BB16 it was more like, hey, can Derek pull this off? Where with Paul, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe Paul is going to pull this off.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's actually a good point.
I think that there was a little bit of like, can this person actually run the table and be this mastermind, where we had this sort of stigma against a returning vet coming in from the beginning of the season.
I honestly think it's
just been a wire-to-wire cakewalk for Paul.
Right. I think, Rob, I think it's because we've seen it before. Like in Survivor, when Boston Rob did it, we had never seen something like that done that well before. And I had to sit back and say, even though it was a boring-ass season, that was pretty amazing to watch that man do that. Likewise with Derek on BB16, never seen somebody do that before. That was like, can he pull this off? But like now it's like, I already saw that story. I want new heroes, new villains, new storylines, and I don't want to see the same thing over again.
Okay, let's take some more questions. This is from Kaysen, who asks us, Jessica, would you ever do Survivor? You're amazing. Love you. Jess, we know your backstory with Big Brother. Did you ever get into Survivor?
Well, Kaysen, love you too. Thanks for the question. I did watch Survivor, actually, like the very first season I watched with my dad as well. I would never in a million years do Survivor. Look at me. I am not built for Survivor. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I am not capable of pulling that off. If Cody wants to do Survivor, then I 100,000% support him, and I think that he would absolutely kill it. But I really would love to see to get an offer to do Amazing Race with Cody, because I think that we would dominate that.
Well, we'll see if Amazing Race might have gotten the halting hex on it. I'm not sure if it's even still in play. But actually, Cody on Survivor, really, I mean, he feels more like a Survivor contestant than a Big Brother contestant.
Agreed. 100%. I think he would do really well.
Yeah. Brent, I actually could really see that of CBS going with Cody for Survivor.
Yeah, I could too, actually. He seems like something interesting that they've never had before. And Survivor is very fun with their casting sometimes. We're like, let's put this person on and see what happens, So Cody is definitely an interesting specimen, both physically and the way he talks, like, his enthusiasm levels in the diary room. I'm glad I'll say this. I'm glad during the last week and a half, the Big Brother editors really, really had a fun time with all the robot sounds anytime they showed Cody. They leaned into the joke really, really well. And I think they got what all of us who liked Cody, and I know not everybody did, but most of people liked Cody. And I think they got what we were seeing in him.
Now, Jess, if either you or Cody were to ever be asked to play the game again, would you only play with each other? Because with all due respect, I feel like that both of you did a lot better in the house without the other one there.
I'm not saying that I would only do it if Cody was to return. I would be open to the idea. If Big Brother asked me to return, I would definitely consider it.
Yeah, BB20 with Paul.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I feel like it would be more fun with the two of them together because, you know, they failed this time, but I don't feel like if they went in together again that they would fail. I think people would want to align with them. Jessica and Cody, I'm talking about. I feel like that it would be a different story if it was something like BB13 where they invited like 2 or 3, you know, 4 couples into the house. So I can see something like that happening and doing fine.
All right. This is a question from Jamie. Ask Jess if she had to pick a Paul minion to win, who would it be? Is there somebody that's working with Paul that you would like to see go on to win?
I definitely still consider Mark to be a Paul minion because he keeps saying that he wants to play a big game, but he's not. He is still doing whatever Paul tells him to. And you saw that today with the Cody vote. He didn't have to vote to evict Cody. He could have done whatever the hell he wants because he knows that he's at the bottom of the totem pole now, but he still voted to evict Cody and it was unanimous. So, I mean, if I had to pick a minion to win, it would be Mark.
You know, we haven't talked anything about Kevin tonight, and Kevin is somebody who seemed like that he was sympathetic towards you and Cody the whole time that you guys were in the house. There's been a lot of talk this week about Paul is feeling like that Kevin is sketchy and shady, and he needs to be a target sooner. I was worried about him going into this double eviction. Do you feel like that Kevin could potentially pull this out?
Kevin would have to start winning some competitions because he is rubbing a lot of people the wrong way in the house. And if he can't start protecting himself, then no one else is going to continue to protect him. So if he can pull out some comp wins, then yeah, I think that he has some definite potential.
Have you been surprised by anything you've found out about Kevin since you've come out of the house?
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, I was watching live feeds the other day and he was having a conversation about how he would beat the crap out of Cody and Julie if Cody thought that he was going to take the master bedroom. And he had a really nasty conversation with Jason about how they were going to attack Cody and Julie. And I didn't know that Kevin was that kind of an individual. I thought he was really sweet in the house. But now seeing what he says behind closed doors, calling Cody a POS because he thinks he's lying about having a daughter. Like, I've seen a whole different side of Kevin, and I have to say I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, I think, Rob, what's happening with Kevin right now is he's panicking. I feel like that he's gotten caught in a few things, and he realizes his position in the house is not as secure as it once was. And so rather than being like the lovable grandpa or dad, whatever you want to say, you know, who's sort of behind the scenes, like the goofy uncle, I feel like he realizes his position in the game is deteriorating. And so he's trying to reconnect with the people he was previously with and trying to make smack talk with them. Like, yeah, you know, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, and that's why you're getting that from Kevin right now. It's unfortunate.
Okay, let's take this question. This is from Katanga. Jess, Dominique told the house that Paul was a snake. Do you think that did you think that your speech would have a different effect? So in terms of is the question that did you not heed Dominique's warning enough?
I know I did, but unfortunately the rest of the house did, but did not. You know, sometimes you have to keep slapping people repeatedly until they wake up. So I was the second slap and still no one woke up, and I was hoping Cody would give him another slap and still no one's waking up. So we've got some really deep sleepers in that house.
Yeah, Rob, when I saw that Derek was coming into the house, I tweeted that, you know, this is the point in the season where Derek comes into the house and reminds all of the house guests that Paul is playing a interesting version of Derek's game. And everybody in the house says, yeah, we're sort of fine with that. So, like, they don't care that Paul is on his way to winning $500,000 right now. They're safe. And as long as they're safe, they don't care what happens in the game until their time comes. And then by then it'll be too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, it's so odd to me, the Derek choice. I'm really interested to know what they're planning to do, because last year when they did this sort of recap of the recap show midway, they had like a concert and a party, and but I'm not sure necessarily what Derek is coming back to talk about here with the house guests.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, look. Rob, I thought maybe, they're doing it because they realize, the season's going down the shitter and they need something. But on the other hand, they already had this, plan from a couple of weeks ago, this Friday night show. And number two, if they really wanted to change the course of the season, I feel like they shouldn't have put an elimination competition that was guaranteed to knock out one of Marlena in the first or second round. So, they're not helping their cause here. I don't know what they're doing.
Brent, I've said that I think that the show is in a tough spot because I don't think that they necessarily want. I mean, I think that the show would have been excited to see, Cody have a comeback here, but I'm not sure necessarily if you lose Paul. I don't know what the show is anymore at this point because I mean, how much Mark and Elena are we gonna see at this point? Then
Rob, there was no way they could get Paul out, and everybody knows it. There was no combination of nominees you could have put on the block with Paul. Even Alex would have gone home. Paul would have survived no matter who he's on the block against because he has these people that mind effed right now.
Okay.
That was actually a conversation that Cody and I had in our last few days in the house together. We were really trying really hard to put together all of these scenarios, and there's not a scenario that I can think of unless Paul messes up socially that he will go out of the house. There's nothing to the point where you're just going to have to nominate Alex and Paul and let them both fight out veto and see what happens. But there's literally no one who Paul can be put up on the block with next to right now that the house is going to be like, let's vote out Paul. They're just absolutely starstruck.
Jess, what was your reaction to Kevin having the 25,000?
I thought it was, first of all, I am not going to be upset with anybody in the house who won $25,000. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never going to be like, oh, they're a shitty person. Like, congratulations, you won $25,000. Kevin, congratulations, you won it. You have 7 kids. You deserve it. You need it. But to get Ramsey evicted by pointing your finger at him when Ramsey's and Kevin were inseparable in the house. That is the part that I genuinely don't understand, is that he kept saying that he was like Ramsey's father figure. So if you're going to point your finger at anybody, how do you have the heart to do it to him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know either how that came about. I really think it's just Paul. I mean, Paul has his ear in Kevin's mind so much. I just think that he was able to sway Kevin to his side, and Paul was really threatened by Ramsey's for one reason or another. And it was easy to make Ramsey's look like the bad guy and say, "Hey, he took the $25,000. Let's get rid of him." And because if we get rid of him and he took the $25,000, then you shouldn't feel bad about evicting him, and that's why he went out of the house.
I'm telling you right now, Paul had a problem with Ramsey's because Ramsey's is a showman. And it's what the part that really made me realize that is when Ramsey stole the nomination ceremony from Paul's first head of household to nominate himself as the third evictee and caught everyone by surprise. He stole Paul's shining moment. And I think that Paul's ego was literally just so bruised that immediately put him on Paul's radar.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Jess, could you give us any insight into the Megan situation from the house? Because we did not get to see a lot of that on the show.
Megan overheard a conversation that I was having with Raven, and she heard me say that basically this was before Cody and I started spending time together. I think Raven knew that I had a crush on Cody, and Cody was over in the corner talking to Alex, and Raven was like, "Oh, Cody looks bored. You should go save him from that conversation." And I said in response, "No, he's talking to Pow Pow. I'll pass." And I think Megan thought that I called Alex Panda,
yes,
which she considered a racist term. And I wasn't sure until after the show whether she was intentionally making up that rumor or if she genuinely thought that I was calling Alex a panda. So I had assumed that she was just trying to stir the pot because she was on the block and wanted to make someone else the target. And if you're going to call someone a racist, you have to understand that that's not just gameplay that's going to affect someone outside of the house. So I got really defensive and I called Megan out on it, because if you're going to say that I'm a racist, like, I'm not going to deal with that for the rest of my life. I'm going to defend myself. So it's a shame that she overheard the conversation and was wrong about it. And she dealt with a lot that week. She was really bullied a lot that week, and it took a toll on her. So I feel bad about that.
Were you surprised that she left the house the way she did?
Absolutely. I did not see that coming at all. We were a week in. I didn't see that coming at all.
Okay. Let's take a question. This is from Will. How did Christmas throw that final? Did you feel like that Christmas threw that last part of the HOH, Brent?
No, I thought they were trying to get Whistlenut to throw it to Christmas. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure exactly what happened there. I would have to watch it again. Christmas did put up a pretty bad shot, but on the other hand, they couldn't see what the other person was doing, and she had almost gone off the board on the previous shot. So I don't know what happened there. Again, it did not matter once Mark went out. Mark and Elena were always going to be the nominees, and if they needed a pawn, they were always going to throw Matt or Raven up there. I mean, that's just how it was going to go. I don't even know why it matters who wins head of household at that point.
Yeah, I did think that Christmas was trying to throw it to Paul when Paul went, and then she tried to like push it over the line and didn't get it far enough.
It's definitely a possibility. I thought once Mark and Elena went out, I did think everybody was going to throw it to Paul, but I was glad to see he lost, actually.
Okay.
Well, didn't they throw it to Paul? Because it doesn't matter who wins HOH in that house.
That's a good
Paul's
point.
HOH anyway.
Yeah. That's definitely true. Like I said, the season's HOHs are Cody, Paul, Jessica, Paul. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. This is from Johnny DeSilvera, who says, I'm glad Mark survived tonight, but why in the world didn't he try talking to Jason at all during the live event? Yeah, it was interesting, that they walked out of the room. They left Jason alone. How do you walk away from the HOH in that spot, Jess?
Well, what I saw was he followed Jason into the APSR, and everyone followed as well. And I think that people didn't want Mark to get a minute alone with Jason. That's how I saw the situation. Because, again, Jason's going to do whatever Paul tells him to do, but Jason also is a spaz. So he has the potential to go off the rails at any moment in time. So if you give him like a little bit of a nudge, he could go off the rails and make his own decision. So they know that they have to keep a very tight leash on Jason. For example, there was a moment where Jason was spilling to me in the APSR that Alex was always planning to nominate me and get me evicted during her HOH, and that he was the one that saved me that week. And Alex knew that Jason and I were in the APSR alone, and that she got nervous, and she walked into the APSR 2 or 3 times and said, Jason, I need to talk to you. Jason, I need to talk to you. And I was just like, we're talking, give us a minute. And she'd leave, and then she'd come back. She knows that she has to keep Jason really close because he will do what he wants, but he's also not strong enough to like take on the entire house.
Yeah, Rob, they've got that rodeo boy whipped right now because if you leave him alone for a minute, look, like it wasn't that long ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we were talking about, okay, who would be the best person to challenge Paul? Who would be the best person to think, you know what, we're not going to just let Paul have $500,000. And we were saying at the time that it would be Jason Whistlenut, because he was saying to people, well, why are we letting Paul decide? Why are we letting Paul dictate? It's our HOH. But now he has totally come home at this point, and he's a lost cause.
Okay, all right. Let's do one more question from the chat. This is from Love Tour Alex. Did Christmas burp or hiccup when she voted tonight? Yeah, is that something she could not control herself as she was trying to cast her vote, Jess?
It was really funny. It made me really happy.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was, but the look of embarrassment on her face after was priceless.
Yeah, I thought it was something where you're talking. It's happened to me a few times on the podcast where you're talking and all of a sudden your throat just like closes up on you and you're like, how did that happen? Like that seems like what happened, and it was pretty enjoyable for me to watch too.
Okay. Brent, did you have any other questions for Jess tonight?
No other questions for Jess. I just hope she has a very fun finale night. I hope you try not to let the haters get you down. Try to have a good time with this. It's a fun experience, and don't take it too
Wait, are those Paul's dogs barking at you again?
Yeah. Raven snuck her way into my apartment.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, Jess, I know you have a lot of stuff going on, so I appreciate you making some time for us on this busy double eviction night. And so I thank you so much for all of your insight into what's going on in the game. I always appreciate it. Jess, in case anybody wants to follow you on social media, where can people find you?
You can tweet me at the Jessica Graf. It's TheJessiccaGraf. And then my Instagram is the Jessica Graf, TH1EJESSICAGRAF.
Okay. Jess, I really appreciate it. I wish we could have seen more of you tonight, but it was good to at least
I know,
hear
I'm
you.
sorry.
Look at that. People got to see you on the live feeds the whole summer. Then they just got to hear you tonight. Taran Armstrong is going to have the live feed update tomorrow morning. Again, the live feeds are off, so we will not have I usually do the show with the guys on Friday morning, but Taran is going to have a special episode where he is going to be talking. We have. Is this? Oh, that's not it. Where he's going to be talking with John Krause about, get this, Jess, the psychology of being in a cult.
Oh my God.
Couldn't be more apt.
Check that out tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Yeah, that's going to be the overnight update. Also, Bachelor in Paradise is on and going, and Amy and Haley are talking about all of that drama. Of course, Survivor, Australian Survivor, Nick Udanza had Jenna Louise on, and the exit interviews as well. That's up on robhasawebsite.com. And then, of course, we'll have our special Friday recap tomorrow night. We'll see what Derek Levasseur is up to in the backyard on the recap of the recap, coming up tomorrow night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:15 Pacific. So a lot of great stuff. Thanks so much to Scott St. Pierre, but not just behind the scenes. He's literally behind this wall. He's here tonight. So big shout out to Scott. All right. Jess, thank you so much. Follow Brent on Twitter. He is at @OneLuckyGay on Twitter. And shout out to Jessica's dog as well. And so thanks everybody. Thanks everybody who joined us here tonight. Subscribe on YouTube for more live shows with Big Brother guests, and then also on iTunes at robhasawebsite.com/iTunes. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.